Hello, people. Hello, hello. All right, so when you jump on, just tell me really quickly that you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up or something. Hopefully, I'll be able to see your comments during this Facebook Live, but sometimes Facebook doesn't show us the comments, which is kind of annoying. But I just wanted to come on here. It's been forever since I've been live. I wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about something that's like super near and dear to my heart, and something that I feel like people just like hide. I know I used to hide about, and something that people just like don't like to talk about in public. Like it's just like this taboo thing that people like to hide, and they suffer in silence, unfortunately. So hey, I see some of you guys jumping on. Let me know that you can hear me okay. All right. Okay, so I think that most of you guys know. If you don't know, I am someone who deals with anxiety on a daily basis. Hey Sarah, nice, good to see you on here. Okay, I'm getting the hand, so I'm guessing that you can hear me. Okay, great. I'm gonna turn off comments until I'm done, so I'm not like distracted. Then I'll come back and look at any comments that you guys might have. But I just always say that I was born with anxiety. I remember from an early age being super anxious as a child, worrying about things that normal like kids shouldn't worry about, right? I feel like it's always like been a part of who I am, right? And I went on through life and I would have bouts where it was bad, but I would always like manage to get through it. It was something I was always like super ashamed of. And I really didn't like know like what to do about it. And I guess I just like managed it on my own through most parts of my life. And it didn't like really hit me hard until a couple of months after I was married. And basically, guys, I can just tell you, it like took over my entire life. I was so anxious that my mind would never turn off. Like it completely like consumed me. And if you have suffered with anxiety that's debilitating, that like consumes your entire life, you know what I'm talking about. Like I could be in a room full of people my age who were like 22 at the time, like living their best life, and I was like there but not there because I was consumed by these like overwhelming thoughts in my head, right? Like it controlled everything, and it led to this complete like miserable place where I was anxious, and then I became depressed because I was so anxious. I was afraid to tell anybody. I was newly married. I was afraid to tell Chase. I was afraid, you know, I would talk to him about it, but he's never experienced anxiety, thank God. God gave me someone who wasn't anxious. So he was like supportive, but wasn't really sure how to help me. And I just remember sitting at my desk at my job. This was before I went to grad school, and I was like answering the phones and stuff, and I was consumed. I was worried there was something wrong with me. Like a lot of my anxiety like surrounded around health and things like that. And so I was like in this really, really dark spot. And so I can tell you that it was miserable and it was debilitating, but I can tell you that you can overcome it. And I won't ever say that I don't still experience anxiety, because I do, definitely, but I now say that my anxiety doesn't control me, I control it. And I want to give you guys some key things that have really, really helped me over the years, and some key things that I still continue to practice now in management of my anxiety. Okay, so tip number one. Okay, so I want like these to be like super actionable tips so that you can take them away and actually apply them to your life and your situation. So tip number one is identify your triggers. So this can like seem weird, because if you're anxious, you can honestly feel like you're anxious for no reason. I remember a lot of times I'd be like, I'm anxious, but I don't know why. But often if we dig deep enough, we can find those like triggers, those underlying reasons for why we're anxious. And oftentimes those triggers are just like part of normal everyday life. So for me, I identified a lot of my triggers, and one of my big triggers was the news. So hearing about the news, hearing about negative things in the world, hearing about you know, the swine flu epidemic at the time, hearing about young people dying of cancer, hearing about children sick, and I know that those are all like super real things in the world. But I could feel them. Like they would overtake me as if that situation was my own. And it would get into my head so bad that I couldn't function because I was thinking about Susie in California that had encountered this, or I was worried about this flu that was overtaking the world and that it was coming for me. These things would consume my mind. So I had to identify my triggers. So I found out that my triggers were the news. My triggers were certain people in my life, maybe certain coworkers who were always talking about the negative, or who were always focusing on the bad things, again, that was happening in the world. So certain people, and people can be hard, right? Because some of these people can be your family members. They can even be your close friends, right? But I had to identify what and who was triggering my anxiety, right? And another one of my triggers was social media news feed, right? At the time, just seeing negative things in my news feed and different things would trigger my anxiety. And so that helps me identify why. Also, as a woman, I identified that around my menstrual cycle, I would become even more anxious. And so that also helped me to identify okay, these things are triggering anxiety in me, okay? So just first of all, just identifying what it is that might be triggering that for you. And anxiety can be, it's a wide array of things. It can be a lot of different things to different people. So, mine was health related, but people have social anxiety, people have all kinds of different anxieties. So you have to identify your triggers, okay? Then, tip number 2, okay? Once you identify your triggers, also stop engaging in the activities or the triggers that are triggering your anxiety, right? For me, a big thing was, I would hear about something, or I would start to have a physical symptom or something, and I would manifest this and convince myself that something was wrong with me. And then I would turn to Google because I was looking for reassurance. But what was really happening is I was in this negative cycle that was actually feeding my anxiety, right? Because if you've ever Googled something health related, right? It's worst case scenario every single time, right? As a mother, I've encountered this, having a child, and I was worried about something being wrong with one of my kids, right? And Googling is the worst thing you can do as a mom, right? Guaranteed you're going to be anxious for days because you're concentrating on the bad stuff. So you have to stop engaging in the activities that feed your anxiety. If social media newsfeed feeds your anxiety, you can, I don't feel like you have to give up social media, but you can clean up your newsfeed. I don't see negative stuff in my newsfeed because when I see it, I hide it. I don't want to see that post and I move on. I don't go to other people's pages who trigger my anxiety. I don't follow other people on social media who maybe I compare myself to that may cause me to be anxious and feel like I'm less worthy, right? Identified it, and then I stop engaging in those activities. And guys, this part's hard. It sounds really simple, but you don't understand the addiction almost that it is to seek that reassurance when you're anxious. And so we oftentimes will engage in these activities because we think it's going to make us feel better, and it actually leads to the opposite. And it's really, really difficult. I remember when I figured this out and was trying to stop myself from Googling how hard it was. It was like I was an addict, and I I would start to, and then I would have to stop, and then start to, and I have to stop. And it's hard, guys. It is hard, but you can do it, okay? Tip number 3, work hard to change your mindset. If you guys have worked with me at all in any of my boot camps or mentorships or anything, you guys know that I'm preach this so darn hard. Here's the thing is, even though some of you guys probably relate to me and feel like you were born with an anxious mind, that doesn't have to be your reality forever. Your mind doesn't have to control you. Your mind is like a muscle like anything else, and you can learn to feed it the good stuff. You can teach it and train it to see the positive and not the negative. I promise you guys you can, but it takes work. It takes deliberate action. Again, you have to learn to protect your mind. So you protect your mind by identifying the triggers, avoiding them or stop engaging in them if possible, right? And then working hard to change your mindset to the positive. Okay, so some ways that I have done this is I honestly hardly ever watch TV. And I'll listen to the radio and music sometimes, but what I like to do is put a podcast in my ear, an inspirational audiobook. I start every single day with my daily devotional and some time in quiet prayer with Christ. And I can tell you, and I'm not going to preach to you, but as a Christian, I can tell you that a lot of anxiety can be released when you start improving your relationship with Jesus Christ. I'm not saying that it will completely go away. Obviously, he has the power to do it, but it's more about improving that relationship with him so that you can get yourself to the point to where you can cast it on him daily. And it's hard, but it's deliberate. It's a deliberate thought process that you have to get to. And I think that you can seek all the different help, all the different medications or whatever, but honestly, to goodness, your life and your anxiety and stuff will never be where you want it to be until you have that relationship with Christ. And that's just going to be my spill for that. But you have to work hard to change your mindset. So stop watching the news, stop feeding yourself the crap and start feeding your mind the good stuff. Listen to motivational videos, audiobooks. I love Audible podcasts. They're free. Get the junk out of your mind and start feeding it the good stuff. Write down affirmations, read positive things that feed you. Surround yourself with positive people that feed you, that fuel you energy. Limit your time with those that bring you down, okay? And this is hard, but if it is a family member or whatever, a friend or close person that I just had to get really honest with them and tell them, like, listen, when you talk about that, that makes me anxious. Can we not talk about that right now? Or, can we shift and can we turn off the news? Can we not watch that right now? And it's not personal against them. It's really about yourself and you protecting yourself. And if they are a close family member and stuff and they love you, they will respect that, right? So own it, take ownership of your mind, protect it, feed it the good stuff, and it will change. But it takes time. It takes consistency. You can't just read your devotional. You can't just listen to an audiobook or a podcast 3 times a week and expect it to change, guys. It has to be deliberate action. It's a choice. It's something that you have to choose to do every single day because you know it's going to help you, right? Okay. Tip number 4, stop serving. This is for you moms and just women in general. Stop serving everyone else before you serve yourself. For some of you guys, it just that was like a punch in the gut, right? Especially if you're a mom, you got kids, you're running around everywhere, whatever, all you do is serve others. You feel like that's what you're supposed to do. And serving is so amazing, but serving is so, what's the word I'm looking for? Is so debilitating. It leaves you thirsty for something else. If you're serving from a place of emptiness, if you're already anxious and running on empty and then you're trying to serve other people, it leaves you 100% depleted. So think about the airplane, right? If you've ever rode an airplane, you have a young kid, the stewardess will come over and be like, in a case of an emergency, you put on your mask first and then you put on the child's mask, right? And so for us moms, it's no, I want my child to survive, right? But what? You can't help anyone else. You can't serve anyone else if you don't have your oxygen mask on, right? If you're not feeling your own cup. If you guys have never read the book, Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis, you're a woman, you need to do it. And don't get it and read it. And don't get me wrong, I love to read too, but I want you to get the Audible book and listen to her voice in your ears because she will change your life. But one thing I want you, one thing that she uses, an example she uses, is imagine yourself as a glass vase. And what happens is we start doing something good for ourselves, right? We start taking care of ourselves. We start feeding ourselves good food. We start exercising again. We start feeding our mind positive things. We start filling our cup, right? So we're a vase and we're filling ourselves up with water, right? But when we just start to get a little bit full, we start to feel a little bit better, what do we start to do? We start to tip over and pour out into other people. That's actually a huge mistake. what you have to think of is think of the vase and allow yourself that time. Serve yourself first. Serve yourself so much that your vase, your glass vase is overflowing with water, overflowing with joy, overflowing with goodness into all of those other people in your life that you want to serve. But that can't happen unless you're filling your cup first. I talk to women every day that says like, yes, I want to get control of my health and fitness. Yes, I want to eat better. Yes, I want to feel more confident. Yes, I want to do all these things, but life is crazy right now. The kids are in all kinds of sports. I'm working 10 hours a day. Like, there's just no time. And I get it. I was there too. But that's what leads to that debilitating, miserable place of anxiety that you can't get out of because you're not filling your cup first. It is not a disservice for you to take 30 minutes to yourself to move your body. It's not a disservice for you to, choose healthier food, to take an extra time to meal plan, to get up a little bit earlier and do your devotional. It's not a disservice. It's not not serving your kids. When they see you happier and healthier and more confident, that's what they're going to remember. That they want you around longer, right? But we can't. We can't overcome these things. We can't overcome this anxiety. We can't overcome this like stuck place if we don't stop serving everyone else before ourselves. It's a mistake. And it's a mistake that will lead you to that dark spiraling hole that you feel like you can't climb out of. And tip number 5, don't you dare be afraid to ask for help. Don't you dare be afraid to go to counseling. Don't you dare be afraid to take medication if that's what you need. When I was talking to you about where I was in the beginning, a couple months after I first got married, I was in such a dark place that all of these tips I just gave you, there was no way that they could possibly work for me because the place was too dark. My mental capacity was too far gone. I had a chemical imbalance that I couldn't even hear advice. I couldn't absorb advice because I was just I was just in another place. So I finally was to the place where I was like, I need something. I need help. I'm gonna have to take medication. I'm gonna have to take something. And let me tell you something about medication. It's not shameful. It's not. I don't still take medication currently, and I haven't for 8 or 9 years. But guys, if I ever needed it again, I'm gonna be the first person in line that says, give it to me, okay? Because it helped me a ton. It did not take care of my anxiety. It is still possible to be anxious on medication. So what I encourage you to do is if you try things and you can't break the cycle, you need medication. For me, medication leveled me out enough to where I could be of rational mind enough to start taking action to control my anxiety again. So my advice is to get the medication, get leveled out, but don't just stay there and tell yourself the excuse, well, I take medication, so now I'm not anxious. You have to like identify the underlying problem so that you can fully like live and not be like overtaken and debilitated by this anxiety. So I encourage you that if you are in that place that you need medication, that you need help, you need someone to talk to, you need a professional to intervene and help you, then do it. And once you do it and you're in that more even place where you can rationalize, then I want you to go back through steps 1 through 4 and start doing those, because that's what helped me. I got on the medication so I could be rational, and then what? I identified my triggers. I stopped engaging in the activity. I worked hard to change my mindset. I worked on it every single day. I still do every single day. When I'm more anxious, that means I need to spend more time on me. When I'm more anxious, it's because we've been so busy that I've missed workouts. I put my own devotional to the side. I put my own personal development to the side to serve everybody else. And there's seasons in life when we have to do that, right? But we have to identify, I'm extremely more anxious because I'm serving everyone and not serving me. So Chase, I need you to put the kids to bed tonight. Mommy needs a hot bath and to be shut off from the world so I can get my mind right? Instead of just ignoring it and continue to pour and then get in the darker place, okay? So, okay, I had comments off. I hope that this helped someone. And again, I'm not a therapist. I am a physical therapist, but I'm not a mental health therapist. I am a doctor of physical therapy, but not a medical doctor. So this is not medical advice. This is just things that helped me. And I wanted to share because I know so many other people suffer in silence, and you don't have to. And you don't have to tell yourself that you can't overcome it, because you can. I'm always here to help. If you have anything or any questions, please let me know. And like I said, if you don't mind to share this, just share it with a friend, just share it on your newsfeed, because there's other people out there that's suffering in silence, and they need to know that there's hope. They need to know that they don't have to be miserable, okay? You can live your best life. You can be joyful. You can enjoy today. So thank you guys. I hope you guys have a great night. Thanks.